As time goes on, the list of games that floods the market becomes painfully overwhelming. Seriously, have you tried sifting through all the garbage that Steam is spewing out these days? Gems are swept under the raging maelstrom that is the shovelware apocalypse currently facing us 2018 Steam users. Honestly, it's kind of ridiculous. So, what I play now, compared to everything I would play 3 or 4 years ago, has changed drastically. I pay for what I want to play, and I review what I think's worth reviewing. Vermintide 2 is one of those games I think is worth reviewing. Back when the first game came out, I showered praises on Vermintide for being the second coming of Sigmar. It was great, literally an expanded upon Left 4 Dead clone with a better melee system, loot, and replayability. What's more is it was a Warhammer game. And if you didn't know, Warhammer gives me such a brilliant erection that it could guide the Emperor's Chosen through the warp tides. This is Warhammer Fantasy, before the world is literally wiped clean by the forces of chaos. In Vermintide, you group up with 3 other friends, swapping between 5 heroes each with 3 classes and about 5 billion different ways to chop rats into tiny bloody pieces. This is made better because now you can chop up screaming zombie Vikings too. Between flame-throwing, Gatling gun-wielding ratmen and absolutely disgusting walking tentacle hentai beasts, you'll probably die. A lot. Then again, the game started out as criminally difficult, has since then been patched, and it kicks you a lot less while you're down. So I mean, that's good. More loot, right? Less random spawning of 5 pack masters that ends your run a few steps from the escape point. Speaking of loot, the system has been revamped. Now weapons have power levels to go along with their rarity. Power goes up as you level up and you play harder levels, practically ensuring you will almost always get something a little bit better than before. Power level affects your damage, the amount of hits you can take, the number of enemies you sweep in your attacks, and simply how much of a monstrous badass you are. However, the game does cap loot power levels based on the difficulty you are playing. So the easier the difficulty, the lower the max level of loot you will get. So if you want to become stronger, you gotta fight harder. Personally, I like that mentality. However, if you're playing with a lower level friend, that same low level loot can also be broken down and used on your much higher gear. So you're not really punished for playing with any lower level people. All in all, while I do miss the unique random chances of the first game's Renault's Bones, this is definitely a lot less frustrating. Now, I could definitely go on for a while about Vermintide 2. I'm a bit lazy, and instead I think I'll just summarize my overall positive feelings of the game in just a few short points. And these are: beautiful environments and fantastic level design, a better soundtrack, and overall I love the satisfying sound effects in the game. Graphically, it's just as beautiful, and if not much more beautiful than the first game. There's a huge variety of enemies, from Storm Fiends and Warp Spawn to Chaos Warriors and Rattling Gunners. There's a million different ways to die. In my opinion, the halberd is godlike. I really don't even need anything else. I really do love how they added in skills, classes, and the equivalent of ultimate abilities. Characters are still just as catty and witty as before, if not even more so now. Co-op with friends is still an absolute blast. And finally, the combat is still the most satisfying thing I've ever played in a hack-and-slash game. While I do love this game, I still have a few negative feelings for it. For example, some of the enemies can be super freaking cheap sometimes, even annoyingly so. I'm particularly looking at the Bile Troll when it first came out. Failure rewards can seem really punishing at times when you spend 30 minutes running through a level just to fail right at the end and get nothing for it. I'm not sure why, but this game only shipped with like 13 maps. Why not just release the first game's maps and a small map pack or something as well? It would add so much more replayability to it. Hell, I wouldn't mind paying an extra $10 for that. Some classes feel woefully underpowered to other classes. I'm particularly looking at the Dwarf Ranger, who just doesn't seem to contribute as much as the others. Some of the environments, although beautiful, seem to lack the personality of Ubersreich from the first game. Maybe it was because it was one city, it was easier to focus and kind of give it that personality, I guess. I don't know, it just seems like there's too much dirt and gray in the game overall. And I think my biggest complaint about the second game is, where are the orcs? Some of us like to wah, you know. Now, I'm kind of kidding. It would have been nice to have a new character to introduce with the new game. It's the end times. It'd be cool if we saw some vampire counts, Bretonians, or lizardmen joining the fray, even if it'd be a stretch to explain. Take some poetic license, the old world's dead anyway. Can you imagine the banter you get out of two beings that absolutely hate each other's guts? More than a dwarf hates an elf, for example? Like, take a dwarf and a vampire, or a dwarf and an orc, or a dwarf and, Well, I guess the dwarves really just hate about everything in Warhammer, don't they? Finally, for those who like a quick summary, it's great. 5 out of 2, 2 out of 1. Buy one, get the third for free. I'd probably play it more if I wasn't getting lame and old. And if you're comparing it to the 96% of the new releases on Steam, it's really not much of a comparison. Treat yourself to some rat-killing fun and hold back the tide in Vermintide 2. I hope you've enjoyed this short review. It seems to be all I really have time for nowadays. Hopefully stuff like this will be more commonplace, but it's really kind of up to how not lazy I feel when I get home from real life work and life stuff. But anywho, love you guys and see you next time.